Joy is not a destination. It is not hidden in the far corners of the earth, nor reserved for saints and sages. It is here, woven into the silence between your thoughts, glowing quietly behind the noise of your daily life. Over 2,500 years ago, beneath a canopy of rustling fig leaves, a man sat unmoving. Days passed, storms rolled overhead, and then stillness, awakening, not of the world outside, but of the world within. That man became known as the Buddha, and what he discovered wasn't a religion, but a rhythm, a way of being so natural, so profoundly simple that it has echoed across time like a bell in an empty valley. But the world forgot. As kingdoms rose and fell, as temples turned to dust and scrolls faded, the essence of his teaching became clouded, wrapped in rituals, veiled in complexity. What was once a clear spring of truth became a distant memory. Yet the teaching was never lost. It has always waited in the space between one breath and the next. This video is not about achieving joy. It is about remembering it, about peeling back the layers of noise, of distraction, of desire, and rediscovering the ancient art of being present. We will travel through time, walking beside the Buddha and the mystics who followed him. We'll explore forgotten scriptures, misunderstood parables, and hidden truths buried beneath centuries of dogma. You'll learn how to awaken joy in the most unexpected places, in stillness, in sorrow, even in suffering. And perhaps you'll come to see that every fleeting moment is not a burden, but a portal to something eternal. Prepare to see with new eyes, not just the world around you, but the world within you. In the sacred language of Pali, there is a word, sukha. It is often translated as happiness or pleasure. But the ancients knew better. Sukha was not momentary delight. It was a deep, abiding joy, the kind that cannot be taken away by circumstance, age, or loss. It was the joy of alignment, of harmony with the truth of things. To understand this joy, we must go back to the time before time was counted, to the forests of ancient India, where seekers wandered barefoot through the wilderness, eating little, sleeping less, consumed not by ambition, but by one burning question. What is the root of suffering, and what lies beyond it? Among them was Siddhartha Gautama, born a prince, shielded from pain, fed on the finest delicacies, and draped in luxury. But a single walk beyond the palace gates shattered the illusion. He saw a sick man, an old man, a corpse, and then a serene ascetic, glowing with an otherworldly peace. That moment cracked open his soul. He left everything, his title, his family, his wealth, and walked into the unknown. For 6 years, he practiced extreme austerities. He nearly died seeking liberation. But in the end, it was not deprivation that revealed the path. It was balance. It was stillness. Under the Bodhi tree, he came face to face with Mara, the embodiment of fear, doubt, and temptation. And by not resisting, by simply observing, he transcended. He saw the true nature of reality, not as chaos or punishment, but as something exquisitely interconnected, flowing, and alive. From that awakening came a river of teachings, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Middle Way. Yet at the heart of all these teachings was something far more subtle, something rarely spoken aloud. Joy, not suffering, is our original state. But here lies the paradox. The Buddha did not teach joy as a goal to strive for. He revealed it as something that emerges when clinging ends, when we stop chasing pleasure and fleeing pain, when we rest in awareness itself. Over time, this message became distorted. In many traditions, the Buddha is seen as austere, emotionless, almost severe. But the earliest texts speak differently. They describe him as radiant, calm, yes, but also warm, compassionate, luminous. There are stories of him smiling gently beneath the moonlight, of laughter among the monks, of moments of deep, wordless delight under trees, by rivers in silence. The joy he spoke of was not the giddy thrill of acquisition. It was the joy of being awake, of no longer being bound by the endless push and pull of desire and aversion. A joy born from presence, from seeing clearly, from no longer being a stranger to the world. Why has this truth been forgotten? Because joy is subtle. It does not shout. It does not promise power, wealth, or glory. It cannot be sold or packaged. And in a world addicted to stimulation, stillness seems empty. Simplicity seems naive. And yet, the ancient masters whisper otherwise. Zen poets speak of joy in a fallen leaf. Tibetan yogis chant of bliss hidden in the breath. Theravada monks teach that joy is the seed of deep meditation, not its reward. This is not superstition. It is science of the soul. And if we listen closely beneath the noise of modern life, we may still hear the echo of that timeless truth. Joy is not a secret to be learned. It is a silence to be remembered. Imagine this. A traveler, lost in the desert for days, stumbles upon a pool of water. Parched and desperate, he dives in, drinks deeply, and weeps with relief. But what if, just as he drinks, he realizes it was never a desert, only a dream? This is the nature of our suffering, and this is the joy the Buddha speaks of. To understand how joy arises in every moment, we must first see what obscures it. According to the Buddha, the root of our unease is not pain itself, but our attachment to outcomes, our clinging to desires, and our resistance to change. In the Dhammapada he writes, "From craving arises grief. From craving arises fear. But one who is free from craving has no grief. So how fear? Joy then is not the opposite of sorrow. It is the absence of craving. It is the space that opens when we let go of needing life to be any particular way. But letting go is not passive. It is not defeat. It is clarity. Think of the mind like a still lake. When the surface is agitated with wants, fears, comparisons, the moon cannot be reflected clearly. But when the lake is calm, effortlessly calm, the moon appears in its full beauty. So how do we return to that stillness? The Buddha offered a powerful entry point: mindfulness, sati in Pali. But this is not mere awareness. It is a sacred remembrance of the present moment, infused with gentleness, non-judgment, and curiosity. To be mindful is to bow inwardly to each moment as if it were sacred, whether joyful or painful, mundane or magnificent. The Buddha once said, "The miracle is not to walk on water, but to walk on earth." In other words, to see, truly see this cup of tea, this falling leaf, this fleeting breath, is to witness the divine in disguise. And when we do, something remarkable happens. We begin to taste joy, not because life has changed, but because we have. Let us go deeper. There's a Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. This isn't a riddle. It is a revelation. Enlightenment and the joy that flows from it does not transport us to a different realm. It reveals the sacred within the ordinary. Washing a bowl becomes a blessing. Waiting in traffic becomes a meditation. Even sorrow becomes a teacher cloaked in gray. This is not romanticism, it is transformation of perception. When we remove the veil of mental noise, life becomes luminous. Simple moments begin to shimmer with a kind of quiet ecstasy. But beware, joy is not always loud. It is not fireworks or elation. Often, it comes like a breeze, barely noticed, yet profoundly felt. A warmth in the chest, a tear without sadness, a smile with no reason. And here lies a deeper mystery. Joy, in the Buddhist sense, is not personal. It does not belong to the ego. It arises when the I softens, when we become porous, spacious, open. Have you ever lost yourself watching a sunset or listening to the rain? In those moments, where did you go? That, too, is the gateway. The more we dissolve into the now, the more joy arises, not from doing, but from being. And yet, the path is only beginning. There are paradoxes to unfold, deeper layers of seeing, and ancient misconceptions to unravel. Stay with this unfolding, for in the next part, we will cross into the heart of the teaching, where joy meets emptiness and silence speaks. Let us return to the Bodhi tree, not as historians, but as seekers. Beneath its wide branches, Siddhartha did not merely discover how to end suffering. He discovered the true nature of the self and found that it was not a thing at all, but a process, an illusion, a flicker of mind and moment. This realization was not bleak. It was liberating, for if the self is not fixed, if it is not a heavy stone we must carry, then joy is not something earned, but something revealed once the burden is set down. Here we meet a concept both mysterious and essential: shunyata, emptiness. To many, emptiness sounds cold, frightening, devoid. But in Buddhist philosophy, it is the opposite. It is openness, interconnectedness, the freedom from rigid identity and separation. You are not a name, not a role, not even your thoughts. You are, in truth, spaciousness itself, vast enough to hold all things without being broken by any of them. This is why joy arises, because when there is no fixed self to protect, defend, or uphold, we begin to move like water, to live like wind, to become the moment itself. A bird calls across a valley, a child laughs on a dusty street, a tear rolls down your cheek, not out of sorrow, but from the sudden staggering beauty of existence. This is not poetic fantasy. This is Dharma, direct experience, and it is supported by countless masters across the ages. Take, for example, the Zen monk Ryokan, who once wrote, "Sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows by itself." What is this, if not the essence of joy? Joy that does not require, joy that does not achieve, joy that is independent of conditions. But here lies the paradox. We often think, if I could just fix my life, then I could be joyful. But the Buddha flips this entirely. He says, when you let go of needing life to be different, joy appears. Not because problems disappear, but because your resistance to them does. This is the secret hidden in plain sight. Joy is not found by getting what you want, but by no longer being enslaved by wanting. And yet, this doesn't mean withdrawal or apathy. The Buddha did not abandon the world. He walked among it with open eyes and an open heart. His compassion was vast precisely because he was no longer trapped by identity, because he no longer mistook the wave for the ocean. This is why awakened joy feels different. It is not intoxicated. It is not dependent. It is a still flame, burning quietly, even in the wind. There's a story from the Mahasaccaka Sutta, where the Buddha is challenged by a severe ascetic who claims that only through extreme suffering can one awaken. The Buddha responds not with argument, but with presence, and he tells of the moment in childhood when he sat beneath a rose apple tree and entered a deep, serene state of joy, not through struggle, but through natural awareness. That memory became the seed of his realization. Why fear joy if it is born of stillness and clarity? Indeed, this was a radical truth. Joy is not a distraction. Joy is the path. And yet, the mind resists. It whispers, "You don't deserve it. It's not the right time. First fix your flaws, your past, your future." But all of that is illusion. As the Buddha said, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. So we return to the breath, the body, the simple now, over and over. And in that return, the world changes. Not because the world changes, but because we finally begin to see the miracle of the mundane, to see that the sound of the wind in the trees is not background noise, it is the Dharma itself speaking, to see that the now has never been lacking. The question is no longer, how do I find joy? It becomes, what in me is still holding joy at arm's length? The Buddha's teachings were never meant to stay sealed in stone or scripture. They were living truths meant to be walked, breathed, embodied. So how do we live this joy here and now in the chaos of modern life? How do we practice it? Not as an idea, but as a rhythm, a way of being? It begins always with the breath. 1. The returning, mindfulness of breath. Sit. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly, exhale even slower. No need to change the breath, just feel it. In Buddhist meditation, this is called anapanasati, the mindfulness of breathing. But beneath this ancient name lies something profound. Each breath is a bridge between mind and body, between past and presence. As you breathe, notice the subtle joy in simply being alive. Not thinking, not doing, just being. Even 5 minutes a day of this silent attention begins to transform the nervous system, soften the mind, and plant the seeds of joy. 2. The sacred pause. In the rush of your day, insert a moment of stillness. Before checking your phone, before speaking, before eating, pause. Breathe, return. This is called the mindful gap, a sliver of awareness inserted into unconscious routine. It is in these micro moments that joy begins to seep through the cracks of daily life. Joy doesn't need an hour of meditation. It needs 1 moment of presence. 3. Rejoicing in the ordinary. Look deeply at the mundane, the steam rising from your tea, the feeling of warm water on your hands, the way sunlight dances on your wall. Practice santuti, contentment, not passive acceptance, but radical appreciation. See through the eyes of the awakened. Nothing is small and nothing is separate. This practice turns your life into a temple. 4th, letting go of the grip. When frustration arises, traffic, delay, someone's harsh words, don't resist it. Don't cling to it. Just notice. Say to yourself gently, this too is a wave. Let it rise, let it pass. Watch your breath as it moves through. This is the path of upekkha, equanimity. You are not controlling life. You are dancing with it. And in that surrender, joy slips quietly in. 5. Loving kindness practice, metta bhavana. Before sleep, close your eyes and silently repeat, may I be joyful. May I be at peace. May all beings be joyful. May all beings be at peace. Feel these words, not as hope, but as truth already present. This is not wishful thinking. It is the cultivation of the heart's natural state. Studies show that loving kindness practice rewires the brain, increasing emotional resilience, empathy, and, yes, joy. 6. Keep a joy journal. Each night, write down one moment that made you smile, even slightly. A kind glance, a breeze, a piece of music. By naming it, you honor it, and by honoring it, you invite more. The Buddha once said, "Whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of the mind." Train your attention toward joy, and joy becomes your home. Common pitfalls and gentle warnings. Do not force joy. That is just another form of craving. Allow it, invite it, but never demand it. Do not compare your joy to others. Joy is not a competition. It is a return. And do not mistake fleeting pleasure for the deeper current of presence-born joy. The former fades, the latter frees. Remember, the joy the Buddha spoke of does not glitter. It glows, quietly, steadily, from within. Begin where you are, with what you have. Joy is not hiding. It is simply waiting for you to look. You are never far from joy, not in your worst moment, not in your grief, not even in the silence between heartbeats. You may have forgotten it, but it never forgot you. Joy is not something to chase. It is something to uncover. Like sunlight behind clouds, it waits patiently beneath the layers of thought, habit, fear, and noise. And the Buddha, in his infinite stillness, did not hand us commandments or creeds. He handed us a mirror and invited us to look. Not out there, in here. He showed us that to awaken is not to float above the world untouched. It is to walk the earth with clear eyes and an unburdened heart. To smile at a child not because life is perfect, but because you see clearly. To sit in traffic and still be free. To wash a dish and know God. To breathe, and that alone be enough. This is the joy he spoke of, the joy that flows not from outcome, but from presence, not from control, but from surrender, not from ego, but from essence. And now perhaps you are beginning to remember what your soul has always known. You do not need to add joy to your life. You need only remove what is false, and joy will return on its own. Like a spring beneath stone, like music in the silence. So I leave you with this question, not to answer, but to live. What if joy was not something you earn, but something you are? Sit with that. Breathe with that. Let it unfold you. And if this message stirred something ancient in your heart, some quiet knowing, consider joining this circle of seekers. Share your reflection. Let others know they are not alone on this path. Like the Buddha under the tree, we do not awaken alone. We awaken together.